When you go through this life, it's a world that's ever trying to change you. And if you know who you are well before other folks know who you are, they won't get the opportunity to use you.
If I could go back in my lifetime and say, what's a big mistake? I wish I figured this out earlier.
Ask questions, ask why.
It takes a special leader to help you grow in a certain role.
Doesn't matter how I speak, doesn't matter how I look.
And it holds true as you think big and don't let anybody stop you.
Now that's a success story.
Welcome to this episode of Success Stories. I'm Steve Cross, the host, and today we have a special local guest, Derrick McDowell, the founder of Youngstown Flea and also new candidate for the mayor of Youngstown. Derrick, thanks for being on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
Yep. Well, let's get into your story. We haven't had a ton of back and forth in the past, but I kind of have followed you along the way the last few years. But when you think of your success story and, growing up or coming through, adulthood, where does that success story begin for you? Who influenced you along the way, and kind of give us some insight into that?
That's probably one of the more difficult questions for me because I'm a very solutions oriented, task oriented, like fixer, and so I move from completion to completion, right? You've got even a little tiny project at home and you call that a success, but an overall life success for me, I've probably never created a delineating line in my mind of like, hey man, I can really point to this. I would say that the world's marker for my success would start around the creation of the Youngstown Flea back in 2016, something just widely regarded as a wonderful thing in addition to the Youngstown community back in that time. Success for me is making it through some of the challenges of life. My oldest brother was murdered in the city of Youngstown back in 1995, and I was only 14, and to survive that
Wow.
and be here to have a conversation with you at this point in my life, that is a success. And so, if I had to measure it, it began in these moments where you live through what you've been going through for such a long time, and you can maybe take a breath and pause and go on to the next thing that you'd love to pull off in this life.
Well, yeah, I didn't realize that about you, and that was a difficult time for Youngstown, early 90s. Mid 90s, right? There was a lot going on.
Yeah, very difficult time. I mean, for some context, that year in 1995, there were 68 murders in the city of Youngstown at that point. And so that's 3 times the amount of murders that you would see compared to just even last year in the city of Youngstown. So very challenging time for our city.
Yeah. Who guided you along the way? Helping you get through that? Was it community? Was it family? Was it, were there people? I'm sure there was a multitude of people. Was there anybody that you can kind of, put a name to?
That's probably, I at 14 really regressed within myself. And so
I bet.
didn't turn to a lot of folks for help, even though I had 2 older brothers still here. We were left to our own devices. My mother was a single mom of 4 boys. And so I call her, built for boys. She let us rip and run and we took care of ourselves. And so after that tragic, death in our family at 14, I even became much more of an island to myself. It probably wouldn't have been until years later, I would say in my mid 30s, where I came to this definition of a hero. Because I actually would sort of, arrogantly state that I didn't have anybody I really looked up to. And but I heard this definition of a hero once, and it said a hero is someone who takes the impact, someone who takes the blows for someone else. So if you can liken when Superman, descends down on some railroad tracks and kind of leans his shoulder in and takes that blow instead of, the train hitting whatever it was going to impact with. I got a very visual image of my mother and my brothers who all along my life as the youngest of 4 boys took those blows for me. Those blows were very costly though. My mom jumped in front of my oldest brother's death to take that blow. My other 2 brothers, jumped in front of that tragedy to take the blows, and it cost our family quite a bit, but the impact to me wasn't as damaging in the same
Mm,
sense as they had to go through, and so I finally recognized in my life that my mother and my brothers, they were heroes, and they still remain that because they have taken blows that I didn't have to take fully.
that's amazing. That's a great perspective and way to frame that up. Um, we normally we don't get this deep on the success stories. It's a lot of, but I love you pulling back the curtain a little bit for us there. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes to your professional journey, then in adulthood, what did you have anybody that helped guide you along the way there, or was it just, hey, I'm jumping in, I'm going to figure this out on my own?
Yeah, a lot of it, man. So coming out of high school, made an attempt to attend Youngstown State University. I felt like I was pretty much behind in the world because that's when computers started really hitting and graphic design became a thing. But corporate America came calling. I had the gift of gab, and so I entered communications world with AT&T, one of
Mm,
those large Fortune 500 companies, and built a career there and in leadership, fixing failing stores. So I would count that as a
wow.
success, to be able to navigate corporate America without any background in that field. I spent 12 years in a successful career there. In management and leadership, and learned a lot from that carried me into what you see now. So AT&T helped me cut my teeth in a lot of different ways. And then I came out of that space doing some business consulting work and started traveling the country and got my first taste of what you now know as the Youngstown Flea as I visited other communities to see how creatives and makers
Mm,
put themselves out to the world.
yeah, yeah, and they need a helping hand because those creators, they don't makers, they don't necessarily always know how to go to market, and they don't have a channel or an avenue to do that. And let's roll right into that Youngstown Flea. I feel like, can you give people some background on that?
Yeah, and you're right. The work that you do is essential, helping folks craft their narrative and their story, but they also need a platform and a space to incubate and market test. And so I was doing some consulting work for Harley Davidson for about 3.5 years and found myself in places like Miami and Denver and New York and LA. And certainly, those aren't Youngstown, Ohio, but we have our own thing as well. And so I would come home from that travel and see that we do have arts and entertainment, healthy culture here of creatives, and they just needed a platform. So I just went on the hunt for maybe the closest thing to what I had in my mind, and I found it in Cleveland. I found it in Akron, Canton, Pittsburgh. They had their own markets, and I would just come home and say, "There's got to be a way. There's got to be someone who will bring this market incubator space to the community." And by the time you filter it all down, you're left with you.
Yeah,
You're the person,
oftentimes.
yeah, on the list. You scratch this name off and that name, and you're like, oh, it seems I'm up next. And so, with a ton of enthusiasm, I had imagined the first Flea back in 2016 as sort of a Broadway play performance where we would pull back the curtains on our area's creatives, and so it had to be a central stage, downtown Youngstown. I knew I wanted that. I knew it had to be something worth getting Steve up off of his couch, right?
Sure.
What a wonderful couch there. Looks like something that belongs at the Flea, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you bet it
Uh,
does.
I was inviting everybody, audiophiles with the vinyl records and folks who were vintage trunks and cases and, clothing, anybody. And so interesting story on the first Flea, I'll tell you, is I got everything set up for this Broadway play in my mind. And I said, I need to run home and take a shower really quick. And so I dodged out. I tried to get back, and my wife's calling me. And I'm like, ignore the first ring like us husbands do.
Yeah.
But she hung up, called back, and I'm like, hey, honey, what's up? I'm on my way back to the market. Is everything okay? She says, no, you have to hurry up and get back here. And I'm like, well, I'm trying my best, but I'm stuck in traffic. I must be in an accident or something. And she says, no, dummy. That's all the people trying to get into the Flea. It's backed up Market Street. It's backed up South Avenue. All of downtown is in chaos.
It's
And
awesome.
I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back to my own market.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great story. Did you make
Yeah.
how did you make it back in time, or you were probably late?
Got close enough, jumped out of my truck and started
Did you?
running to park it.
So much for that shower.
I can park and just get out. I'll come back for the car.
That's funny. Well, what amazing. That's a great way to launch, right? Had to make you
Yeah,
feel good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was 2016?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're to season 10 now of the market. And so we call it a market for makers. This is a space for artisans, for creatives, people who bring their products to market, like you said, who need a space to incubate. And so we are in our 10th season, month over month for the last decade. We have supported our local small businesses and helped revive economy and opportunity for local makers.
Yeah. That's where it starts. Grassroots, small,
Yeah.
small, small businesses. Yeah. And build up from there. I love it. Love it. What are some, give me a couple more stories. What do you wish you would have known back then that you know now? Starting a business or launching or running a business, because I'm sure we all have done it. Like, man, I didn't even see that coming. Like, I wish I would have been better prepared, or some of those learning lessons.
Um, I learned to preserve your back as much as you can. I busted my hump for this community that I love, and it can come at a taxing cost. If a table and chairs needed moved, if a vendor needed help unloading, I was there, and I'm still there. I've just learned that they do make dollies and carts and volunteers for a reason, and so allowing folks to come alongside of you and helping you out is a great lesson. I don't want to sound pretentious when I say this, though, but even from the first flea, I could say that I had a lot of vision on where I wanted to see the market go. So I really don't have a lot of regrets. When I did that first flea, I knew that eventually we needed a permanent home. We were renting that
Mm.
Broadway stage that I wanted, which was an open parking lot next to our downtown convention center. But I knew that wasn't our permanent home. In my mind, I knew from some of the iterations I saw in other communities of the potential of the flea. And so I had it in the back of my mind always that a building, a permanent home. But the thing I said to myself in that first year was, we have to earn it. We had to earn it. There was nothing given, everything earned. You know how it says in Northeast Ohio here. And so, knowing that you want a thing and can see a thing, one of the things I've also learned that I would say to folks is allow patience its opportunity to get a hold of you, because earning it taught me a lot. We bought our current home, which is a historical building in the downtown from 1870 during the pandemic. And quite honestly, I would tell folks that the way I was brought up in the inner cities and tough neighborhoods, every day was a pandemic. And so we had a viral pandemic that shut the world down, but it didn't stop the vision going on in my head. And it created an opportunity to sort of slow the business down because it was being so coveted after and so successful for the flea. But it gave me a time to think, and it gave me a time to scout and find that location. And we were finally ready 4 years later for that new home, and we found it. And patience got a hold of me. And it's also got a hold of me in an even greater way because this building, I tell you, a 150-year-old building, it'll humble you, it'll slow you down. It'll cause you to grab a dolly, a cart, and some volunteers.
I
And
bet.
now under renovations to close to $3 million project that the state's assisting us with some remediation of asbestos. And so 5 years later, after purchasing the building, we're learning to let patients continue to get a hold of us because the plan and the vision can sometimes be well beyond what you're capable of doing, but preserve your back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talk about that vision. Did you have, was it a shared vision with your wife or any peers around you? Or was it you just had it up top and everybody was kind of, I'm sure you had people, naysayers. We all have them like, oh, it's just, you're crazy. It's too much work. It'll never happen. People won't rally around you. But then you always, and everybody I talk to, there's always a few key people, the important people that actually matter, right? That
Yeah.
are around you that support you. And they're like, I don't maybe know if I get it, but I support you. And if you're on it, I'm on board, right? Did you have those people around you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to those AT&T days, I was being rewarded so well from the company that a buddy of mine says, "You're an idiot for leaving," you know. And so one of the things I said to him, and we came up in leadership alongside of one another, and I said, "Hey, I know what your problem is," and I genuinely meant this for him. I said, "You're afraid for me." But I'm not afraid of what I see stepping away from, what had taken care of my family. A great job in corporate America with great benefits, great opportunity to grow and healthcare and all that good stuff. But, sharing with my friend that, I can see that you're afraid for me and I'm not. Folks who told me about the building that we own, that, hazardous materials can knock anybody out of the box. And if the EPA gets a hold of you in this former industrial site, it could be the end and ruin of your whole business. But there was one key person, and I'll tell you who that was, and it was my wife. And my wife actually said these words to me. She says, "I may not fully understand what you're doing." She's a teacher, going on her 20th year as an educator. And she says, "I might not know much about entrepreneurship, and I'll certainly give you my opinions and my advice as your wife and someone who loves you." But she says, "Don't even let me get you off of what you see." And so she gave me the freedom and the latitude to say that though I might not understand even what's going on in your mind and in your vision, I'm here to help. And I'm also not here to get in your way. And so that was a wonderful moment for me.
Yeah, yeah. God bless people like that, that are on our in our corner, no matter what,
Yeah.
blindly. Like, nope, if you think it's going to work, I trust you. Maybe not trust
Yeah.
the idea or the business plan, but I trust you. And there's so much value and weight and what that brings to a person when they're going to make that leap, right? Because it's a calculated risk. It's not there's not no risk, right? When you made that calculated risk and that decision, I'm sure you spent weeks, months, maybe even years trying to figure it out and saying, when is the point? When am I going to jump? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm a very firm believer in waiting on a proper fit for things. We have a
Mm,
market now that we do in Mill Creek Metro Parks at the Flower Gardens. It's on Mother's Day, and it's one of our larger offsite markets from the home that we have in our downtown, and it's monstrous. But I could see it and I knew it was a fit. And there are market opportunities I've had to turn away because they're just not for us. And so, knowing when things fit well and when they don't has guided us and guided the flea, and we stay it's true to it.
yeah. Is that fit? Is that more of an intuition, more of a feeling?
Yeah, it's a feeling coupled with, a vision for that future. You know what you're after. And so if you're plugging things in that take you away from that vision, and if it doesn't feel good, those are two things I combine is that fit and a feeling that you have to have. Because one of the things we love is when we communicate with those who partner with us as vendors at our market, it always begins with, "Hey, Flea family." And so you don't often do business with that attachment to it. They try to tell you to stay away from doing business with family. But we adopted that language from the beginning because that's how we want folks to feel when they participate. We're a community of makers introducing ourselves to a community of shoppers and supporters. And that to me feels like family. Even though we've got some tough business decisions to make when it
Mm,
comes to the fit of a vendor being a part of the flea, that can be challenging, but you have to stick to it because that focus, that vision dictates a lot of times. I always joke and say, you can't call country radio and ask them to play an NWA song. It's not fit. You're at the wrong station. And
yeah.
sometimes we can have a fit for the market and the flea, but we stay true to who we are. And when it feels like family, that's what it is.
Love it. Love it. Love it. It's such a great advice and that intuition because you know when it's right. And it's hard to
Yeah.
define sometimes of why you know, but when you see it, you know it, right? And you feel it. Mhm.
When you go and lay your head down after all you've endeavored in this life and in this world, when you can say, you ever let a shot leave your hand on the basketball court and you say, hit or miss, man, that thing felt good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it means a lot what you just said, and a lot of people don't bring it up, but the peace that they're able to live with, knowing that they're running and doing business the right way, being able to put your head down and feel confident in who you are and yourself, and not losing yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, integrity at its core, without a doubt. Yep, love it, love it. So tell me, what are you up to today? What's your day to day look like now in this new endeavor that that you put your face out there for? Uh, how's
Yeah.
things going
So,
with that? What are you up to now?
man, trying to stay married to a beautiful wife. I'm punching above my weight there. So, with four kids, three of them adults. Our youngest is 16, all the way up to 24 years old. And so family is very important. I've learned a lot about that from my wife, especially when I talked about my upbringing and how my mom sort of allowed us to roam. But, the Flea is still doing its thing and supporting a community, and we love that, and we're not going to let that go. We are certainly after a full completed project with the $2.7 million remediation of asbestos with the building that we own. That's a vital project to this community. And the next step for me is just the run as an independent candidate for mayor of the city of Youngstown. This is the city that I live in. This is the city that birthed me. This is the city that loved on me through all of those things. Even when I took a loss, even with that blow that I talked to you about that sent a rippling effect through my family, I chose not to take from this city, but to give. And because I have a deep, passionate love for this city, it has carried me into a space where politics, we certainly know we live in a world filled with it, but if we can bring it down to a level that says we're going to take care of the people. And that's what a mayoral run is about, is getting back to transparency in government, accountability for a city like Youngstown, and a vision for it and all of its 31 neighborhoods. Youngstown is family to me. Youngstown is a place that I see has not just so much potential, but opportunity beyond what maybe sometimes the naked eye can see. And it's time to start uncovering that and pushing towards it and leaving a generational outcome for the next wave of people that are going to come behind me.
Love it. Love it. Always coming from we talked off screen beforehand. Just that coming into this race, and it's kind of a common thread through everything we've spoke about so far. It's just, you just want to help. It's just at the end of the day, I feel like that's all you're more of an enabler of trying to get people success, and you're just helping other people kind of get there. And this seems like the next step for you.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, you know business well enough that acumen is a thing, right? How well do
Hmm.
you know what you're after? And so education is important. And so if you bring that to a community level, the quality of life that people are looking for, there's a acumen that we have to deliver. There's education that goes along with that. And a mayor, as defined by our city's charter, the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city. And that to me speaks business language, which is right up my alley. And it also speaks to the fact that we're in the business of running a municipality, an incorporated city full of 60,000 residents. So, really, what we're saying is we're in the business of taking care of people. That's what a mayor has to be about. And that's what I want to be about.
So this is your first foray into the public office, right?
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And I'm sure some bumps along the way, but I personally, I don't get to vote for you. I can't vote for you. I'm not in that section, but I wish you all the success. Definitely throwing support behind you. I think just what I do know from you, like I said, you're always coming to things from the right position, always wanting to help, and I think it just oozes out of you. Everything you speak about, you're just here to help. You're just a genuinely nice human, and I love that about you. And I just try to surround myself with more people like that. Because
Thank
oddly enough, it's difficult in today's day and age if you don't know who is sincere with what they're bringing to the table or what they're saying. And I think um, it's just easy to tell that with you, that you're just trying to help. And God bless you, and I wish you all the success in the race. So, along the way, what are some words of wisdom that you have for other people, maybe growing up the city or suburbs or anywhere else that are thinking about taking that leap or taking that risk, that calculated risk that we talk about into entrepreneurship, or even some guiding principles of how you grew up or climbed the ladder with AT&T corporate world. What are some principles of that kind of guide you?
You know, interesting thing with AT&T taught me a lot was that to thine own self be true. But if you don't know yourself, how can you live that out? And so being very self-aware. I remember when I left AT&T, another friend of mine who was in leadership came to me and she says, "Do you know why they moved you to different stores in leadership so often?" And I said, "No, I actually didn't know why they did that up front, but it was very frustrating because I'd get a store right where I wanted it. It'd be rocking on all cylinders, and then I'd get a call that we're going to move you somewhere else." And she said to me, she says, "They used you to fix failing stores." And so I had this gifting that the company recognized well before I even recognized it. And so if you are self-aware, you can command more and demand more in this life. You can walk into rooms that are constantly trying to change you and be yourself authentically. There's a difference between growth, right? That I come across new information and new wisdom and new knowledge and new feedback that I apply to my life, but retaining who I am as a person. I've got a long-winded demeanor. I love communicating with people. And so that's something you've got to work on as you're running for mayor because they want a minute 30-second sound bites for a vision that you've got for the entire city. But if you remain true to who you are when you walk into rooms, when you go through this life, it's a world that's ever trying to change you. And if you know who you are well before other folks know who you are, they won't get the opportunity to use you. Now, I don't say that disparagingly about AT&T because they paid me well and they took care of my family, but in a sense, they wonderfully knew how to use me to fix failing stores. And so once I recognized that about myself, now I can go take that wisdom, that knowledge for growth and start using it and saying, now how can I apply what I learned at AT&T to the community that I love? And my wife will tell you, honey, you're a fixer.
Yep. Yep. Well, I think you're in a great position to fix the next project that's in front of you. It's amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
Along your way, do you have any books or mentors, anything that you kind of always resource back to, or you keep front and center?
I'm a man of faith, man. I turn to that Bible. Proverbs has the 31 chapters, man. If you take one a day, it'll eat you alive. And so there's always something throughout that entire book that has really, really been a challenge to me. It helps me check my ego at the door. It helps me check my motives, my thoughts, and my attitude, my actions. Why am I here? What am I doing? I'm a voracious reader, but I haven't gotten to the number of books that I have loaded up lately or sitting next to my bed. But I've read a study that says it's always good to have a few books sitting next to you that you haven't read. It keeps you motivated and thinking that you're eventually going to get to them. So, but yeah, that Bible for me as a man of faith has been just a life changer and monumentally transformative for me.
Well, Derrick, I love what you're doing. It's been great to follow along with your story. I know everybody watching this is going to get a lot out of this. Just your staying true to yourself, taking that risk, doing jumping into entrepreneurship, and now, taking what might be your life's mission of just being a fixer, just like your wife said, and applying that to the city. And all the success to you, and best wishes for the race ahead of you. If you need anything from me, always here to help and lend a hand, anything I can do. But thank you very much for being on today, Derrick. I really appreciate your words of wisdom and sharing your story with our audience.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. I very much appreciate the invitation, man. Thank you.
Yep. And lastly, where can people kind of get on board or follow along with the race and also the Youngstown Fleet? Social media, websites, things of that nature. Where can they find out more information?
For the flea, visiting Youngstown Flea, FLEA.com. So youngstownflea.com. And for the mayoral race, it is McDowell for mayor.com. And we've got November 4th of 2025 as that determining factor on who will lead this next city. So I'm prayerfully hopeful that this city gets out and turns out that vote.
Excellent. Thanks, Derrick. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thanks so much, Steve.